She mistook a CEO for the passenger sitting next to her, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's story. It was just another ordinary flight for Emma. She sat nervously, clutching the armrests of her seat, trying to ignore the heavy weight of her stress. It had been a tough few months, and this trip to New York was a last-ditch effort to turn things around. She was on her way to meet a potential investor for her art gallery dreams, but the idea of having to sell herself, again, was daunting. She glanced at the window, watching the clouds drift by, her mind racing with thoughts of her humble life back home. She wasn't dressed for this world. Her second-hand dress, faded from too many washes, was nothing compared to the sharp suits and expensive shoes that graced the airport terminal. Her shoes, scuffed and worn, were a constant reminder of how far she had to go and how little she had to work with. She looked around the plane, searching for something to distract herself, and that's when she saw him. He was seated a few rows ahead, alone, focused on his phone, dressed in a well-tailored suit that screamed wealth and success. She couldn't help but stare for a moment. He didn't seem like the type of person she was used to, but there was something familiar about him. Maybe it was his intense focus, or the way he seemed completely at ease in the environment she felt so out of place in. Emma took a deep breath, trying to push her thoughts away. She needed to focus. She had a plan, and this was going to be her big break. The plane began to taxi, and she adjusted herself in her seat, her palms suddenly clammy with nerves. She reached for her phone, checking her messages again. Still no response from the investor. Maybe she had made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't going to work. Out. Suddenly, the seat beside her creaked as someone sat down. She looked up, startled, to find the same man from a few rows ahead sitting next to her. He smiled politely and adjusted his seat, his presence suddenly making the cramped space feel even smaller. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, his voice deep and calm. Emma's heart skipped a beat. No, it's not," she stammered, quickly moving her things to the side. She could barely focus, feeling the heat rush to her face. She had no idea who this man was, but there was something about him that made her feel both out of place and strangely drawn to him. He smiled again, settling in. "I'm Liam, by the way," he said, extending his hand. "Emma," she replied, shaking his hand, trying to steady her breath. The flight continued, and they exchanged small talk, chatting about trivial things. Emma tried to act natural, but every word felt forced, like she was trying too hard to appear confident. She wasn't used to talking to someone like him. He was calm, composed, and exuded an effortless charm. She, on the other hand, felt like she was struggling to keep up. As the conversation flowed, Emma couldn't help but notice that Liam didn't ask her about her life or her work. Instead, he spoke about his own experiences in a way that felt distant. She wasn't sure why, but she started to feel like he was hiding something. When the plane finally landed, they exchanged polite goodbyes, and Emma hurried off the plane, hoping to make her meeting. The encounter felt like a fleeting moment, something that would fade into the background of her busy life. But little did she know, the mistake she had made in sitting next to Liam would change everything. Emma stepped off the plane, her heart still racing from the unexpected encounter. She had no time to dwell on it. The investor meeting she had traveled all this way for was now only minutes away. She grabbed her bag, pushing the thought of Liam to the back of her mind. After all, it was just a fleeting conversation with a stranger on a plane. Nothing more. As she rushed through the terminal, she could feel the weight of her dream pressing on her shoulders. She had no backup plan, no safety net. If this meeting didn't go well, she didn't know what would happen next. She arrived at the coffee shop where she was supposed to meet the investor. The place was warm and bustling, with the hum of conversation blending with the clinking of cups. She checked the time. He was late. Emma ordered a coffee, trying to calm her nerves, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As she sipped her drink, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny, her best friend. "Just remember, you've got this, Em. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Emma smiled softly, grateful for the support. But just as she typed a quick reply, a shadow loomed over her. Looking up, she froze. It was Liam. He was standing there, in front of her, a slight smile on his face. "Funny running into you here," he said, his voice warm. Emma blinked, stunned. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice betraying her confusion. Liam chuckled, taking a seat across from her. "Funny you should ask," he said. "I'm actually here to meet with someone. It seems like we're both in the same place at the same time again." Emma's mind raced. She had no idea why he was here, but she couldn't deny the coincidence. She shifted in her seat, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "I didn't expect to see you again," she said, trying to recover. Liam's eyes softened. "Neither did I," he replied. "But it's a pleasant surprise." There was an awkward pause, and Emma felt the need to fill the silence. "So, what brings you to this meeting?" she asked, trying to steer the conversation away from the strange coincidence. Liam leaned in slightly, his gaze never leaving hers. "Actually, I'm here to talk business," he said. "I own a tech company, and we're looking to expand into new markets. Your work in art and culture caught my attention." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what he was talking about, but the sudden realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The man she had mistaken for just another businessman was a tech millionaire. Liam Parker, the very same name that had been on the invitation for the gala she had almost forgotten about. The pieces clicked into place. She had no words. Liam smiled gently, sensing her confusion. "I should have mentioned this sooner," he said, "but I didn't want to make things awkward." Emma felt her face flush. "I had no idea," she muttered, feeling the heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. "It's okay," Liam said with a reassuring smile. "I wasn't trying to mislead you. I just wanted to get to know you for who you are, not just the image you might have of me." Emma swallowed, trying to process what was happening. She was sitting across from a man she had mistaken for a regular passenger on a plane, only to find out he was the very person who could help her achieve her dreams. "I didn't expect this," she said, her voice quieter now, as if the weight of the situation was settling on her shoulders. Liam's expression softened. "I know this is a lot to take in," he said, "but I believe in your work, Emma. I think you could do great things, and I'd like to help you make them happen." Emma looked at him, still trying to wrap her head around the fact that the man she had shared a brief conversation with on a plane was now offering to help her achieve her dreams. "You want to help me?" she asked, almost incredulously. "Why?" Liam leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. "Because I see potential in you," he said simply, "and I think you deserve a chance to make your mark in the world." Emma didn't know what to say. Her mind was spinning, and for a moment, she wasn't sure if she was dreaming. But deep down, she knew this was the opportunity she had been waiting for. She had no idea where this strange, accidental meeting would lead, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Emma sat there, stunned by the offer Liam had just made. Her mind was spinning, and the weight of the moment felt heavier than she could have ever imagined. She had always dreamt of opening her own art gallery, but the journey had felt so far, so out of reach. Now, sitting across from a tech millionaire who seemed genuinely interested in helping her, she wasn't sure whether to feel elated or terrified. "You really believe in my work?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam leaned forward, his eyes intense but kind. "I do," he said simply. "Your passion for art is clear, and I think you've got the vision to make it happen. You just need the right opportunity." Emma swallowed hard. The words were almost too good to be true. She had spent so many years struggling, dreaming of the day she could finally make her mark in the art world. But this offer, this kind of help, was more than she could have ever hoped for. "But why me?" she asked, still not able to fully comprehend the situation. "Why offer me this when you could help so many other people?" Liam's smile softened, and he leaned back in his chair. "Because you're different," he said. "I've met a lot of people in this industry, but there's something about you. You're not just chasing fame or money. You truly want to create something meaningful. I respect that." Emma felt a surge of emotion rise within her, but she quickly pushed it down. She couldn't afford to get too emotional. Not now. Not with so much on the line. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, looking down at her coffee. "I've always had these dreams, but they seemed so impossible." Liam's voice was gentle but firm as he spoke. "Dreams are only impossible if you don't take the first step toward them," he said. "And I'm offering you that first step." Emma nodded slowly, feeling a knot in her stomach. She was terrified of failing, of messing up, of not living up to the potential Liam saw in her. But at the same time, she couldn't ignore the opportunity that was right in front of her. This was her chance. What would this involve? She asked, her voice steadying. How do we make this happen? Liam smiled, a small, reassuring smile. I'll introduce you to some people in the art world, he said. People who can help you get started, provide the resources you need. And, of course, I'll back you financially. But more than that, I want to help you build a brand, a reputation. I want to make sure your work gets seen by the right people. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Financial backing, exposure, a platform to build her brand. It was everything she had ever dreamed of. But it still felt surreal. She stopped herself, unsure of how to voice her doubts. You just what? Liam prompted, leaning in slightly. I just don't want to let you down, she said quietly. I've worked so hard for this, but I've never had someone believe in me like you do. What if I mess it up? Liam's gaze softened, and he shook his head. You won't mess it up, he said confidently. You're not alone in this. I'm here to guide you. And even if things don't go perfectly, we'll figure it out. What matters is that you try. And I believe you will. Emma's chest tightened, the weight of his words settling over her. She wasn't used to someone offering this kind of support, this kind of belief. She had always done everything on her own, always struggled without anyone to back her up. And now, here she was, sitting with a man who not only believed in her, but wanted to help her achieve everything she had worked for. For the first time in a long while, Emma allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. She looked up at Liam, her voice more certain now. Okay, she said softly. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. Liam's smile widened, and he reached across the table, offering her his hand. I knew you'd say yes, he said. We're going to do great things together, Emma. As she shook his hand, Emma felt the weight of her decision settle into place. She was stepping into a new world, one filled with possibilities she had never imagined. But more than that, she was stepping into her future, a future where her dreams might finally come true. And she knew that, for the first time, she wasn't alone in making them happen. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind for Emma. What started as a chance meeting on a plane had quickly turned into the opportunity of a lifetime. Liam's connections in the art world had opened doors she never thought possible. With his backing, Emma secured a small studio space where she could work on her art. She began making plans for her first exhibit, her dreams slowly taking shape in front of her. Every day, she woke up excited, but also terrified. There was so much to do, and the pressure to succeed weighed heavily on her shoulders. Liam checked in on her regularly, always offering guidance and encouragement. He introduced her to some key figures in the art world, curators, gallery owners, and influencers who were eager to see what she could do. But with each meeting, Emma felt herself becoming more and more aware of the gap between their worlds. While she was just starting to build her career, Liam was already a giant in his industry. She was grateful for his help, but a part of her couldn't shake the feeling that she was being carried by him, that she wasn't quite standing on her own yet. One evening, after a long day of meetings and sketching ideas for her exhibit, Emma found herself sitting at a cafe with Liam again. The familiar warmth of the place, the clinking of cups and soft hum of conversation, felt like a comforting backdrop to the growing uncertainty inside her. Liam sat across from her, looking relaxed, as always. He had that easy confidence, the kind that made everything around him feel effortless. But tonight, there was something different in the way he looked at her. How's everything going? He asked, his voice casual, but with a hint of concern. Emma paused, stirring her coffee absently. It's going well, she said slowly. But it's also overwhelming. Sometimes, I feel like I'm just playing catch-up. Liam leaned forward, his gaze steady. What do you mean? He asked, his tone gentle. You're doing great, Emma. You're ahead of where most people would be at this stage. Emma let out a small laugh, though it was more out of nervousness than amusement. I don't know. It just feels like I'm always one step behind, trying to live up to expectations that I'm not sure I can meet. There it was, the truth she had been too afraid to admit. She didn't feel ready. The art world was a place where people's dreams could be shattered quickly, and even though she had Liam's support, Emma couldn't help but feel small in comparison to the people he introduced her to. You don't have to do it alone, you know, Liam said softly, his voice almost a whisper. I'm here. You don't have to carry all of this on your shoulders. Emma looked up, meeting his eyes, and for the first time, she saw something in them that wasn't just professional or friendly. There was an emotion there, a depth that she hadn't noticed before. She felt her heart race, her breath catch in her chest. She quickly looked away, not sure what to make of the sudden shift in the air between them. "I know," she said quietly, feeling the warmth of his words. "But I want to do this on my own. I don't want to be just the girl who got her big break because of a favor." Liam smiled, a faint but understanding smile. "You won't be. You're building something real here, Emma. Don't sell yourself short." They sat in silence for a moment, the words hanging between them like a quiet promise. Emma could feel her walls slowly coming down, the ones she had spent so long building to protect herself. But there was something about Liam, something that made her want to believe in him, in herself. She had come so far, and it was hard to imagine what it would be like to walk away from everything that was finally within her grasp. She wanted this, but she wasn't sure if she could let herself fully trust in it, in him. As they finished their coffee, Liam stood up, pulling his jacket on. "I'll see you at the gallery opening, right?" he asked, his voice light, as though the moment they shared hadn't shifted everything. "Of course," Emma replied, standing as well. She smiled at him, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened, she couldn't keep pretending she wasn't falling for him. "I'll see you there," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. As Liam left, Emma remained behind, staring out the window, wondering if this was the moment she had been waiting for, or if it was the start of something that would complicate everything. The days leading up to Emma's gallery opening felt like a blur. She was simultaneously excited and terrified. The invitations had been sent, the artwork was ready, and everything seemed to be falling into place. But there was one thing she couldn't shake, the feeling that she wasn't ready. She had worked hard to get here, but now that the moment was almost upon her, she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly prepared to take the leap. The pressure of having Liam's support, of knowing that he was behind her in every step, made her question whether she was doing this for herself or because she felt like she had to prove something. Her studio was filled with paintings, sketches, and unfinished works. Each piece represented her journey, her struggles, her dreams, and the quiet hope that one day, her art would be more than just something she did to escape the daily grind. It would be something that could make a difference in the world. But as the evening of the opening drew closer, Emma found herself paralyzed with doubt. She had been so focused on the business side of things, the logistics, the marketing, that she had almost forgotten why she started painting in the first place. It wasn't about impressing people or making a name for herself. It was about expressing something deep inside her, something that only art could capture. But in the middle of all this pressure, Emma couldn't help but wonder if her passion had become lost somewhere in the chaos. As she sat in her studio one afternoon, staring at a canvas she had yet to finish, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey, just wanted to remind you, this is your moment. You've got this. I'll see you tonight." Emma smiled at the message, but it didn't ease the knot in her stomach. The gallery opening was just hours away. She quickly texted him back, telling him she was looking forward to it, even though she wasn't sure if she really was. The gallery was buzzing with energy when she arrived. The walls were lined with her artwork, each piece illuminated by soft spotlights, giving them an ethereal glow. The space was packed with people, all talking excitedly about the exhibits and the artist behind them. Emma's heart raced. She had never imagined her art would be displayed in a place like this, in front of so many people. But the reality of it hit her like a wave. She had always dreamed of this, but now that she was here, she felt out of place. She felt like an imposter. Liam was there, as promised, standing near the entrance, looking effortlessly polished in his sharp suit. He gave her a small wave as she walked in, and she smiled back, though her nerves were getting the best of her. He was surrounded by a few people, some who were industry professionals, others who were just there to enjoy the art. Emma made her way through the gallery, her eyes darting from one piece to the next. She overheard snippets of conversation, comments about the bold use of color, the emotion in her work. It made her feel proud, but also self-conscious. Was it enough? Was this what she wanted people to see? Just as she was beginning to doubt herself, Liam appeared beside her. He was smiling, his presence a calm reassurance amidst the swirl of activity. "You're doing great," he said softly, his voice cutting through the noise around them. "You're ready for this?" She turned to him, unsure of how to respond. "I don't feel ready," she admitted quietly. "I keep thinking about all the people here, and I wonder if they'll really get what I'm trying to say." Liam's gaze softened. "I think you're underestimating yourself. These people are here because they see something in your work. They see the passion, the heart that you put into it. And that's what matters." Emma looked at him, her chest tightening. His words meant more than she could express, but she still wasn't sure. "But what if they don't like it?" she whispered, the doubt creeping back in. Liam placed a hand on her shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Then you keep going," he said firmly. "You keep doing what you love, and you don't stop just because of what others think. You're not here to please anyone. You're here to share your truth." Emma felt her heart swell with a mixture of relief and gratitude. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in this moment, she realized that it wasn't about the approval of others. It was about doing something that felt true to herself. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Emma spoke with a few people about her work, received compliments from admirers, and even got a few business inquiries. But as the night wore on, she couldn't help but feel a shift within herself. The gallery opening wasn't just a success because of the praise she received. It was a success because she had taken the leap. She had put herself out there, and for the first time, she truly felt seen. When the night finally ended, Emma stood by the door, watching the last guests leave. She turned to find Liam standing beside her, a proud smile on his face. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "I knew you could." Emma smiled back, her heart full. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you." Liam's expression softened. "You could have," he said, "but I'm glad I could be part of it." Emma took a deep breath, realizing that this was just the beginning of something bigger. She didn't know exactly where it would lead, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The weeks that followed the gallery opening were a whirlwind for Emma. The success of the event had given her a newfound sense of confidence. People were talking about her work, and she was slowly starting to build a name for herself in the art world. But even with all the success, there was still a nagging voice in the back of her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. She had achieved her dream, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized that her success wasn't just hers. Liam had been there every step of the way, guiding her, pushing her forward. He had given her the platform, the connections, and the financial backing to make it all happen. She wasn't sure where her own abilities ended and where his influence began. One night, as she sat in her studio, staring at a canvas she had yet to finish, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "I have an event next week. I'd love for you to join me." Emma felt a tight knot form in her chest. She had been avoiding Liam lately, not because she didn't appreciate everything he had done for her, but because she was starting to realize how much his presence had impacted her. She had always tried to keep her emotions in check, to focus solely on her work. But Liam was making it increasingly difficult to do that. She hadn't told him, but she had been feeling something for him that went beyond gratitude. Something deeper. She wasn't sure if she was ready to acknowledge it, though. She quickly texted him back. "I'd love to. What's the event?" A few moments later, Liam replied. "It's a charity gala. You'll be surrounded by people who appreciate art. It's a good opportunity for you." Emma smiled at the message, her heart warming at the thought of being included in another one of Liam's events. But there was something else that lingered in the back of her mind. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was just about business. Her feelings for Liam were becoming harder to ignore, and the thought of being around him again, in a setting like this, made her nervous. The night of the gala arrived, and Emma stood in front of the mirror in her apartment, trying to calm her nerves. She had chosen a sleek black dress that made her feel confident, but not out of place in the high-end crowd. She had no idea what to expect from the event, but she knew it was a big deal. She checked her phone once more. Liam had already arrived and was waiting for her in the car. As she stepped out of her apartment and into the waiting vehicle, Emma felt her heart rate pick up. The drive to the event was quiet, the city lights casting a soft glow against the windows. When they arrived at the venue, Emma was immediately struck by the grandeur of it all. The building was a towering masterpiece of glass and steel, a symbol of the wealth and influence that would fill its halls tonight. She took a deep breath and followed Liam through the doors. Inside, the space was even more impressive than the outside. The walls were lined with art from some of the most prestigious galleries in the world, and the people in attendance were just as impressive. Emma felt a sense of awe and intimidation wash over her. She had never been in a space like this before, surrounded by people who moved effortlessly through the world she had only just started to enter. Liam led her through the crowd, introducing her to people he knew, but Emma could barely focus on their conversations. She was acutely aware of the way Liam's hand rested lightly on the small of her back as they moved through the room, the way his presence seemed to draw attention, making everything around her feel like a distant blur. She tried to focus on the art, on the conversations, but it was impossible to ignore the way Liam made her feel, the way he looked at her when their eyes met, the way he seemed to understand her in a way no one else did. As the evening wore on, Emma began to feel more comfortable. She spoke with a few people, shared her story, and even found herself enjoying the attention her work was receiving. But through it all, there was one constant: Liam. He was always by her side, always present, his quiet support never far from her. As the night came to a close, Liam walked her to the exit. The cool night air hit her as they stepped outside, and for a moment, the noise of the gala seemed to fade away. "You did great tonight," Liam said, his voice low and warm. Emma smiled, but her heart was still racing. She had felt something shift tonight, something that went beyond the professional connection they shared. "Thank you," she replied softly, looking up at him. There was a long pause, the silence between them filled with unspoken words. Finally, Liam spoke again. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said. "It's good to see you getting the recognition you deserve." Emma's smile faltered just slightly. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam met her gaze, his eyes soft and sincere. "You could have. I just helped you see it," he said. And in that moment, Emma realized that the man standing before her wasn't just someone who had helped her succeed in her career. He was someone who had become a part of her journey in a way she hadn't anticipated. And somewhere, deep inside, she knew that this was no longer just about art. It was about something much more personal. The days following the charity gala were both exhilarating and confusing for Emma. She had received more attention than she ever expected, and her work was being recognized by people who could truly change her career. But despite the praise, there was a growing unease inside her. She couldn't ignore the feelings that had been slowly building for Liam. What had started as gratitude for his support had transformed into something deeper, something she wasn't sure she was ready to face. Every time they met, she found herself looking at him differently. It was no longer just about business. He had become someone she cared about, someone who made her feel like she was more than just an artist, like she mattered in ways she hadn't felt before. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that the relationship between them was becoming more complicated. He had been so generous with his time, his resources, his connections. But Emma couldn't help but wonder if there was more to his intentions. Did he really see her as an equal, or was she just another project to him? Her mind raced with questions, and no matter how much she tried to focus on her art, the uncertainty lingered. One evening, after a particularly long day of working in her studio, Emma found herself once again checking her phone. Liam had texted her earlier, asking her to meet him for dinner. She hadn't responded yet, unsure of how she felt. But as she sat there, staring at the message, she realized that avoiding him wasn't going to make things clearer. She had to confront whatever it was that was building between them. She quickly texted him back. "I'd love to meet you." The message was brief, but it felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She needed to see him, to talk to him, to figure out where they stood. The restaurant they were meeting at was one of Liam's favorites, an upscale Italian place known for its intimate atmosphere. Emma arrived a few minutes early, nervously adjusting her outfit as she waited. The evening was cool, and the soft glow of the streetlights made the world feel more serene than it had in days. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the racing thoughts in her head. When Liam arrived, he was dressed casually, yet still looked effortlessly put together. There was something about him that made Emma's heart skip a beat every time they were together. He greeted her with a smile, and they sat down at a small table in the corner of the restaurant, away from the bustling crowds. "You look amazing," Liam said, his gaze warm and sincere. Emma smiled, feeling her nerves ease a little. "Thank you," she said. "It's been a crazy few weeks." Liam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I know the feeling, but I'm glad to see how far you've come." He leaned back in his chair, studying her for a moment. How are you really doing, though? I know you've been busy, but you seem distant. Emma looked down at her hands, unsure of how to respond. She wasn't ready to fully open up, but she couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I'm doing well, she said quietly, but I've been thinking a lot about everything lately. About my work, about where it's all going, and about us. Liam's eyes softened, and he reached across the table, gently touching her hand. I know this is a lot to process, he said, but I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. This isn't just about your career. It's about you, Emma. You matter to me. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had heard those words from him before, but hearing them now, in this moment, made everything feel different. I don't know what to do with all of this, she admitted. I've never had someone care about me like this. I don't know if I can trust it, or if I even deserve it. Liam squeezed her hand, his gaze steady. You deserve it more than anyone I know, he said softly. And I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to carry all of this alone. The words hung in the air between them, a promise that Emma wasn't sure she could fully accept yet. But for the first time, she realized that maybe she didn't have to do it all on her own. Maybe she didn't have to push people away, or keep her emotions locked inside. Maybe, just maybe, it was okay to let someone in. As the evening wore on, they talked about everything and nothing. Art, dreams, the future. The tension that had built up over the past few weeks seemed to melt away with each passing minute. By the time they left the restaurant, Emma felt lighter, more at ease. Liam had always been there for her, supporting her career, guiding her through the complexities of the art world. But tonight, she realized that his support went beyond that. It wasn't just about business. It was about him caring for her, for who she was, and for what she wanted to become. As they walked down the street together, Emma felt the weight of her doubts start to fade. She wasn't sure where things would go from here, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she had someone by her side who truly understood her. And that, she realized, was enough. The days following their conversation at dinner felt like a shift for Emma. The doubts that had haunted her for so long started to dissolve, replaced by a new sense of clarity. Liam's words had unlocked something within her, something she had buried deep inside, a desire not only to succeed in her career, but to trust in herself and the people who truly cared for her. As she prepared for the next phase of her gallery launch, she felt different, stronger, more certain of who she was and what she wanted. Still, one thing gnawed at her, the undeniable connection she had with Liam. She couldn't ignore it, no matter how much she tried to focus on her work. There were moments when she found herself lost in thoughts of him, wondering if he felt the same way. But no matter how many times she tried to push the idea out of her head, the thought of him lingered. She couldn't deny that what they shared was special, but she wasn't sure where it was headed. Was this just another one of Liam's generous gestures, or was there something more? And if there was she ready for it? Emma spent long hours in her studio, working on new pieces for her upcoming exhibition, but her mind kept drifting. She hadn't seen Liam much over the past week, as he had been busy with his company's latest projects, but she could feel his presence in the back of her mind. Every time her phone buzzed, she wondered if it was him. And when it was, a smile tugged at her lips before she even looked at the message. One evening, as she was putting the finishing touches on a new painting, her phone rang. It was Liam. She hesitated for a moment before answering. Hey, she said, her voice a mix of surprise and excitement. Hey, how's it going? Liam's voice was warm and familiar, and Emma felt a rush of relief. It's going well, she replied, trying to sound casual. I'm just finishing up some work for the exhibition. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line before Liam spoke again. I was thinking we could grab dinner tonight, just the two of us. It's been a while since we've had a chance to sit down and talk. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to suggest something like this, but the idea of spending time with him outside of the business world made her feel both excited and nervous. Sure, I'd love that, she said before she could second-guess herself. Where should we meet? How about that little Italian place you like? I'll pick you up at 7. Perfect, Emma replied, feeling a flutter in her chest. She quickly hung up the phone and took a deep breath. She was nervous, but this felt different from their usual interactions. There was no agenda tonight, no gallery talk or business plans. Just the two of them, having dinner. As the evening approached, Emma found herself getting ready with an anticipation she hadn't expected. She chose a simple yet elegant dress, one that made her feel confident but not too formal. She wasn't sure if tonight would change anything between her and Liam, but she knew she needed to be honest with herself about what she was feeling. She hadn't allowed herself to think about the possibility of more between them, but the more time she spent with him, the harder it was to ignore the chemistry. When Liam arrived to pick her up, he looked as effortlessly handsome as ever, his smile making Emma's heart race. "You look amazing," he said, his eyes warm as they met hers. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a rush of warmth spread through her. As they drove to the restaurant, the air between them was comfortable, but there was a new undercurrent to their conversation, something Emma couldn't quite put her finger on. It was as if tonight was different, less about the things they had to say and more about the things they didn't. The restaurant was cozy, the soft glow of candlelight flickering between them as they sat at a corner table. The conversation flowed easily, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting. Liam's presence seemed to envelop her in a way that made her forget the world outside. They talked about everything, their favorite books, the art scene in the city, their childhoods. But through it all, there was an unspoken connection, a tension that neither of them was willing to acknowledge. After the meal, as they stepped outside into the cool night air, Liam stopped and turned to her, his expression serious but kind. "Emma," he said softly, "there's something I need to say." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked her, voice barely above a whisper. Liam took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've been thinking about us," he said, "about you and me. And I know we've both been focused on your career, on your success, but there's more to it than that. I don't want to just be your supporter, Emma. I want to be something more in your life. I care about you, more than I've let on." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had felt it, that pull between them, but hearing him say it out loud made her realize how much she had been holding back. "I care about you too," she whispered, her heart racing. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of the moment hanging between them. Then, softly, Liam spoke again. "I'm here, Emma. For you. For whatever comes next." Emma looked up at him, her mind racing. This was the moment she had been avoiding, the moment she had been waiting for. She could feel her walls coming down, piece by piece, as she finally allowed herself to admit that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. The days that followed the conversation outside the restaurant marked the beginning of something new for Emma. She found herself stepping into a world that felt both familiar and completely foreign at the same time. Liam had confessed his feelings for her, and for the first time, Emma allowed herself to accept that what had started as a professional relationship had grown into something much more personal. It wasn't easy for her to let go of the fears that had held her back for so long. She had always believed that her success depended solely on her own strength, that she couldn't rely on anyone else. But Liam had changed that belief, showing her that it wasn't weakness to trust someone. It was a way to grow, to be better, together. Their relationship slowly evolved over time, and Emma realized that she was no longer just the artist struggling to make a name for herself. She was someone who was building a life with someone who saw her as more than just her talent. Liam was her partner in every sense of the word, not just in her career, but in her personal life too. As her art continued to gain recognition, she found herself facing new challenges. The pressure to keep up the momentum was constant, but with Liam by her side, it didn't seem as daunting. He became her anchor, the one person who understood the weight of her dreams, her hopes, and her fears. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about them, about building a life together, about finding happiness in the little moments. One afternoon, as Emma was in her studio working on a new piece, she received a message from Liam. "How about dinner tonight? I was thinking we could go somewhere special to celebrate." Emma smiled as she read the message. She had learned to appreciate these moments, the times when they could simply be themselves without the weight of the world pressing down on them. She quickly responded, "Sounds perfect. Where to?" When the evening arrived, Liam picked her up, and they drove to a beautiful, quiet restaurant overlooking the city. The view from their table was breathtaking, and Emma couldn't help but feel grateful for everything that had led her here. She had come so far from the days of self-doubt, from the nights she spent wondering if her art would ever be enough. Now, here she was, sharing a life with a man who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. As they sat down for dinner, Liam raised his glass. To us, he said, his smile warm. Emma clinked her glass with his, her heart full. To us, she echoed. It felt like a quiet celebration of everything they had overcome together, everything that had brought them to this point. The conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and shared stories. For the first time in a long while, Emma wasn't worried about what came next. She didn't need to have all the answers. She had Liam, and that was enough. After dinner, they took a stroll through the city, the lights of the skyline shining brightly above them. Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known she was missing. The world felt right, and she felt whole. As they walked hand in hand, Liam stopped and turned to her. I've been thinking, he said, his voice soft. We've been through a lot together, and I want you to know how much you mean to me. More than just your art, Emma. You're everything to me. Emma's breath caught in her throat. The words she had been afraid to say out loud had finally been spoken. She looked up at him, her heart swelling with emotion. I feel the same way, she said, her voice thick with feeling. You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. Liam smiled, his eyes filled with tenderness. Then let's make it official, he said, his hand slipping into his pocket. He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a delicate ring. Will you marry me, Emma? Time seemed to stand still as Emma looked at the ring, then back at Liam. It was as though the world had narrowed to just the two of them, standing in the middle of the city, surrounded by nothing but love and possibility. Yes, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Yes, I will. Liam's face lit up with the brightest smile she had ever seen, and in that moment, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey. They didn't need to have all the answers. They didn't need to know exactly where life would take them. As long as they were together, that was all that mattered. And with that, they stepped into their future, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that they had each other to lean on. Together, they had built a love that was as strong and enduring as the art Emma had always dreamed of creating, a love that would last a lifetime. In this touching story, Emma, a talented artist, struggles with self-doubt despite her growing success. With the support of Liam, a wealthy tech entrepreneur, she begins to realize her true potential, and their professional relationship slowly turns into something more personal. As their bond deepens, Emma faces the challenge of trusting Liam and navigating her emotions while continuing her career. With each passing moment, Emma learns to let go of her fears, and their connection grows stronger. This touching story showcases the power of belief, love, and the courage it takes to take risks in both life and love. Through their journey, they discover that success is not just about achieving dreams, but about having someone by your side to support you along the way. This touching story teaches us that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can lead to life-changing moments. Liam's unwavering support helps Emma achieve her dreams, and as they both realize their feelings for one another, they decide to take the next step together. With a proposal, Emma finally accepts the love and trust she has been holding back. This touching story concludes with a promise of a future built on mutual love, support, and understanding. It's a beautiful reminder that love is the ultimate success, and sometimes, the most touching stories come when we allow ourselves to believe in the people who believe in us.